Hello everyone, and welcome back to one of our monthly webinars. Even though last month we didn't have one, I hope you guys enjoyed your stay at home, and I hope everyone is staying safe during this COVID lockdown situation, no matter where you are. As some of you who are our regular participants of our monthly webinars, you may know who I am. My name is Grace, and I overlook all of the exciting things here at BenQ, including our webinars. I will be your co-host this evening with our main star, Dr. Chris Bai. Now, Dr. Chris Bai is our senior color expert and the manager of our color technology lab here at BenQ. He was also the professional display product manager, where he developed the first printing industry certified color management monitor from BenQ. He also serves as the vice chair of the display working group in ICC, which is the International Colour Consortium. And he is also an expert member of ISO TC 130. His responsibility at BenQ also includes software development for our color applications in different industries, standards development, and color education. He was one of the directors of our R&D Division at Printing Technology Research Institution in Taiwan. And he is also a fellow researcher at Display Technology Center in Industrial Technology Research Institution. Coming from a mixed background of printing and display technology research, he believes making soft proofing accessible is the future. And that was his mindset when designing the product. He received his Bachelor of Applied Science in Computer Engineering from the University of British Columbia, Canada. And his passion for photography has led him into the world of color. He also received his Masters of Science in Color Science from University of Leeds in the UK. Recently, he also received his PhD in Color Science from National Taiwan University of Science and Technology. His experience and education in color science have allowed him to provide extensive color management training to printers, photographers, designers, and anyone who is actually interested in color management. Now, going through some of the agenda today, Dr. Chris Bai will go through the concept of color management and the introduction to color management. He will show some examples of workflow following and not following color management, understand the goal of photography, and revisit photography workflow. How to improve the workflow to shorten the time required and obtain more consistent result. And what do you need to do to implement color management in photography workflow? We'll also go through the expected result and have a short Q&A session at the end. As per our previous webinars, feel free to ask any questions throughout the session, and we'll get back to you during the end, during our Q&A session. But also there will be a quick survey once the webinar finishes. If you could also please provide some of your feedback, that will be greatly appreciated and would also help us for the future webinars. Now over to Dr. Chris Bai.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Grace. Thank you for your introduction. I'm very honored and very happy to be here. I'm really away from Australia. I'm here in Taipei and in Taiwan. So basically, it's very hot here, and we're also kind of in a lockdown situation here, but right now it's kind of trying to open up a little bit. So I know the pain of you guys experiencing through it right now. So please just keep in mind that staying home probably is the best way to stay safe right now. Okay, so let me just share my screen right now, and hopefully you can all see it. Okay, just screen, okay. And then okay, here are my slides. And actually, I'm going to stop my video so you can concentrate on my slides here. So today I'm going to talk about the introduction to color management, because color management is actually quite a very wide topic that we're going to talk about. They're breaking down to actually 3 kind of stages that I'm going to go through later on today. So today I'm going to give you a broader view of this whole concept. And the concept is trying to do with today is try to improve your photography workflow. So this is the goal of today. So I'm not going to going through a lot of details, but free to ask a question about it, and I'll try to answer it at the end of your session. If you have any more very urgent needs to know about particular part of this workflow or the concept you don't understand, okay? So basically, Grace covered this slide already, so I'm not going to any more details of this slides. Okay, that's a little bit about myself. Okay, so before I go into the whole theory or any particular part of the color management, I would like to do some exercise first. Okay, I usually do this in a more interactive way, but since we're doing online, so I would like to participate like yourself. Okay, so how do we describe color? Have you done this before? I bet you've done a lot of time before. Okay, either with your friend, your family members. Okay, you must describe a color to another person in your life before. Okay, how do you do it? Okay, try red. How do you describe a red color to a person nearby? Okay, so you must have this experience before, right? So red, you probably use an object, right? And this object, probably the most object you probably use will be an apple or a tomato, right? This kind of object, right? Well, this is a very intuitive way that we're using to communicate colors. And this is the way that we've been taught since we're from a child, right? This is how we teach our child how what kind of color this is, right? We use apple as an example of red, right? But is this an effective way, or is this the correct way of learning colors? Well, I don't judge it, but I'll point out what is the problem with it, or what is the issue with it, okay? Apple, let's see. Okay, so how many varieties of apples we have? There are so many varieties of apples. If you do a Google online, you will find there were like 80 to 100 varieties of apples exist in this world, okay? And there are different colors, as you can see on the screen, okay? So basically, you'll have the Red Delicious. This is like a darker red color, okay? And like the Fuji, that is from Japan, it's kind of like a lighter red color. And you have the Pink Lady, of course, it's like a pinkish red, right? So these are like very, very different colors. And what kind of apples you have in your mind is totally up to the person that who have this apples familiar. For example, the people in the US, they are more familiar with the Red Delicious. The people in Japan, they're more familiar with the Fuji apple. And somebody else grew up with a Pink Lady all the way up, then probably he or she will think of like, oh, apple should be look like a Pink Lady color, okay? So this is the problem that we're facing. The people think of apple will associate with the colors most familiarized with themselves, okay? And there's also another type of apple, which is, we don't say, is definitely not red, right? So this is the communication problem we're having. If you're talking about apple, there probably another group of people think, well, the silver is an apple, right? Okay, so I'm not saying this way of communication is wrong, but it can cause some problem, okay? The color we communicate will give you a good idea of the colors that we communicate, but cannot be exact, okay? This depends on the object you pick and the understanding of the recipient they have, okay? So another exercise that we have here, okay? Can we trust the colors on the monitor, okay? I think you know the answer to this question already, but we'll reinforce this answers right here, okay? Let's take a vote on this 4 monitors, okay? We have the same photo on different monitors and they look totally different, right? Okay, so which one is correct? Okay, you take a look at these 4 monitors, okay? Which one looks correct? Well, I think you figured it out. None of these look correct, right? Because each of these monitors, the pictures on these monitors doesn't look exactly the same as the original scene here, okay? Why is it? Okay, this is happening because when we actually took a picture from the original scene and we put it on different monitors, these are, we assume is the same model, but just with different units, but they will look differently, okay? This is because the monitors are making color adjustments, okay? So the pictures on different monitors will look very different. And why is that? And why does monitor do that? Okay. This is because the monitor itself are made of, the most important component is the panel. And the panel is made of a lot of different layers. Okay, there are maybe 10 or 20 layers in each panel. And the most important layers, which will affect the color output or color appearance, are mainly backlight, color filters, liquid crystals, polarizers, and surface finish. Okay, so if we take a look at these layers and we say, if you give them a tolerance, a manufacturing tolerance to these layers, okay, and for example, we give them like 2% of these tolerances, and let's say we have 10 layers for each panels. So the maximum tolerance we'll have for each panel will be for, we'll say 20% already. And that will give us like this very different color appearance for each panel or display, okay? So the mass production variation is the main cause of this phenomenon. Okay, so if we do nothing about this panel or the display, we will have that, the variant of the display. So can we trust the colors from the monitor? No, unless we calibrate our monitor regularly, okay? This is the whole point of color management. We need to calibrate our devices. So make sure they are correct. They can display the correct colors, okay? So this comes up with another question. Why is displaying accurate colors on monitors important? Okay, I'll use a painting as an example, okay? In the past, okay, this is how we paint. The artist or the painters, okay, he or she sit in front of a canvas, okay, using the paint or ink or the paint and the paintbrush, and he or she will have an image or something in his or her mind and try to start his or her work, right? Until he or she is satisfied with the picture in front of him or her. And then he or she, the artist, will stop, right? So that is how this artwork will be finished. And this is the only one, okay? I'm not talking about the duplication or the replica. Okay, I'm just talking about the original artwork. This is the only artwork will be done in the world. Okay, so it is very precious, it's priceless. Okay, but nowadays, okay, how the artwork is done by a computer. Okay, so the artist will sit in front of the computer, look at a monitor, okay, to complete his or her work. And probably not only one monitor, but maybe multiple monitors. Okay, so we're looking at some colors from different devices. Okay, so which devices you should be trust. Okay, you can trust, right? So in this case, do you see the problem? Okay, so let's agree first. The pictures, the image on the two different monitors are in terms of the content, are these the same? Okay, I would say in terms of the content, okay, the image itself, they are the same, okay, but the feelings, the artistic intent are very, very different, right? So you will see actually in this image, the image on the left looks very, very, for example, cheerful, warm, right? Very bright. But the image on the right looks very dark, looks very giving a horror, terrifying artistic intent. And this is totally opposite what the artist would like to give you, right? So think of this way. If you are the artist, okay, and you are contracted to deliver a character for the horror movie, okay, and this is what you design, okay, and you deliver to your client, okay, so you're satisfied, right? You're happy because this is the exact intent you are delivering, and you design it and you draw it, right? You're happy, right? But then here, this is the content, or this is the image that your client is actually receiving. So how your client must not be very happy about it, because he or she is looking at a very cheerful, very bright, very warm character. This is not exactly what your client is contracted to do, right? So definitely there is a communication gap between you and your client, right? So who actually causing this problem? This is actually the display causing the problem. It's not the artwork itself causing the problem, it's the display causing the problem. So this is why we're saying displaying accurate color is very important in this era, because display can cause a lot of color communication problem right now, okay? So do the colors on the monitor matter? Yes, because we rely our eyes to judge whatever the image needs to be adjustment or not, okay? Because the only way we can see the images right now is through a monitor. Either it's a standalone monitor, or from a laptop monitor, or from your iPhone, from your mobile phone, your iPad or tablet, okay? They are all categorized as a monitor, okay? So this is the only way we can see your image right now. And if that monitor is not giving you the correct image or color, then your image must not be correct, okay? So display is the window to the image file, because there is no way to read the electronic file without using a display yet. We cannot just stick an SD card to our brains right now to read the file, cannot. So it is important that the display can truthfully reproduce the colors of the image files, okay? So in this case, right, we have two images on the display, and we can clearly see one is being adjusted, one is not being adjusted, right? The one on the right needs to be adjusted. The one on the left is, we kind of like, okay, the image is being finished, okay? So this is how we judge from the monitor, okay? So let's say back into the WYSIWYG concept, okay? WYSIWYG is we call it what you see is what you get. That was first proposed for the internet browser, okay? Because they want you to see the pictures, the images, and hear see all the animations, okay? They proposed this concept, but in color management, this is also true. They want, this concept wants you to see what you see is what you exactly get is important. So the most important part for the monitor is you have to be properly calibrated, and then you generate a monitor ICC profile, okay? And this profile will be carried through to your work digital file and throughout the workflow. So this is the important part of the color management, okay? So how do we solve this? We use color management, okay? So what is color management? Okay, the first step is color management is, like we said, is calibration. And what is calibration? It's like this. We hang a calibrator on top of your monitor and do some measuring some color patches and do some adjustment to the monitor. And well, that's it. But that is just the first step. Okay, there's a little bit more to that, and I'm going to talk about that later. Okay, so what can we expect? Okay, in reality, okay, this is actually we face every day. Okay, if we don't follow the color management workflow. Okay, this is what we get. We take a nice photo. Okay, using Apple for example again. Okay, and we edit it nicely on our monitor. Okay, it looks very nice, and we want to print it out for framing or for some archiving work. Okay, and we print it out on various printing services, including our inkjet printer at home or office. Okay, and we will never get a match to our monitor. Okay, this happens every day, and happens. I think you all have this experience. Okay. So basically, this is because people don't usually apply the color management practices. The only one thing is missing is because there is no ICC profile in between all these devices. There is no color information exchanging between these devices. So the color devices, for example, the monitor, the inkjet printer, they don't know each other. They cannot communicate it through. For example, the monitor doesn't know what the inkjet printer is capable of printing. Okay, so they cannot do any color transformation for the printer to print it out. Okay, so that's why the Apple looks so ugly. Okay, this is happening in real world. Okay, so don't be frustrated. Okay, because in practice, the colors on the monitors, it can be matched to the printers, the colors from the printers on the printed paper, okay, with the help of the ICC profile from the monitor and from the printer, okay. But there is a limitation, okay. It cannot be 100% match, okay, because the underneath color mixing technology or color mixing theory is totally different. Because for monitor, the primary color for the monitor are actually red, green, and blue. And for the printers, the primary colors are cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So there are two sets of different colors. So actually they cannot match exactly, but we can say they can match pretty close. Okay, I won't say it's 100% match, but we can match it like I would say 90% to 95%, depends on how good you do your ICC profile. Okay, but in my case, I can always do a 90 to 95% match. Okay, and the color management, the goal is to have a consistent color. Okay, so the printout from the colors from projector, the color display on the monitor, the color we actually capture from camera, or we scan it from a scanner, they can all have a consistent color. That means, although it's not 100% match, but they can more or less have a consistent color. Okay, so they have a consistent color tone throughout the different devices. So the goal of color management is to reproduce the color or image which is very closely matched to the original color or image. Okay, this is the goal. So pay attention to the very closely matched. I didn't say exact match or 100% match, but I say very closely matched. Okay. So let us revisit the the photography workflow. Okay. So the first kind of workflow is actually we do a capture. So when we actually go to a place that we think is very nice, we want to capture this moment. So we must have some artistic intent, right? We have an idea of what we are going to capture and how to render it later on. So we have this photographic image in our mind, so we capture it, right? But when you actually look at the colors from the LCD on the back of your camera, never trust the colors, okay? This image from the back of your camera is only provided for composing purposes only. The colors are never meant to be trusted, okay? Because first, we never know if this monitor has been calibrated or not from the factory. Second, even though it's been calibrated from the factory, how long have been using this camera? A year, 2 years, 3 years, okay? Have you been able to calibrate your monitors of this little small piece of monitor? No, you never calibrated, right? And that's a problem, right? So never trust the colors on the LCD. Okay, this color is not right. Okay, and you take the image back home and you do some processing. Okay, so you have this image in your head. You do an image which matches to the image you see on your monitor. Of course, this monitor has to be calibrated, so you'll see the correct image. Okay. And last, right now, actually, what we do the most is do online publishing. So you send your image through Facebook, Instagram. These are all kind of online publishing, okay? So your friend will view, your family members will view your photos on mobile phone, your tablet, or monitors, right? Okay. And one day, your friend or yourself or see your images on your phone or tablet or monitor, you see, that doesn't look right because the blue I saw is really purplish, okay? Is really greenish or whatever. It doesn't look natural at all, okay? So then you went back to process again, and then you publish again. Okay, so this is like a back and forth, publishing and then reprocess, publishing and correct the colors again. It's like a iterative process for lots of people. Okay, and this is really happening. Okay, I'm not sure if you experienced this problem or situation, but lots of people telling me that they really experience it in their life. Okay. So the challenge for publishing online is you have no knowledge about these devices you use to view the image. You have no knowledge what kind of the mobile phone or tablet that your friend or family member or other people in the world they are using. Okay, I know a lot of people using iPhone. Okay, that's one devices, but there are so many other devices in the world, right? You cannot just assume they're all using the one devices, right? And probably if you're involved in a paid work, your client display may not be color corrected, right? Just the example I showed before, right, is totally different images they're looking at, okay? And they just tell you the images just look wrong, okay? What do you do, right? So the problem is usually caused by the displays. And the only thing you can do right now is actually, there are actually two things you can do, okay? One is actually remind people to calibrate their devices before they're looking at your images. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to assume sRGB color space because that's the safest bet to do it publishing online. I'll explain that more later on. Okay. Another workflow in photography is to print. Okay. And it's the same way that we capture our image, okay? And then we process this image with the intent that we going for, and then we print it out, either at home, okay? We send it out for printing services, okay? But the result will never be the way that we are looking at, we expect it or we want. So we're going back to process again, and then we send out to print. We go back to process, we send out to print. This actually goes iterative again. And this actually takes about 3, 4, up to 10 times, sometimes for some people, to make the perfect print, okay? This really happens, okay? And this wastes a lot of ink, paper, and time, okay? So the challenge for printing image is the prints doesn't match the colors on the monitor, okay? If you don't employ the color management workflow, okay? So if there's no ICG profile involved, okay, if you don't use the ICG profile correctly, then actually there is a lot of energy, time, and money wasted in this process, okay? So how can this be avoided? Okay, there is actually a way that we call it a soft proofing, or you can call it a simulating printing effect before the printing process. You can use the printer ICG profile that actually give you the color characteristics of the printer combining the inks and the paper, okay? So that gives you the color characteristics of the ink and the paper plus the printer, and then you can simulate the effect on the your monitor in Photoshop or in the Acrobat. So you can do that before send out the print. So you can take a look if that's what you want. If not, you can correct under that color, okay? And then correct it until you like it, and then you send out the print. Okay, so that's one way to reduce the waste of ink and time and money. Okay, so that's what we call soft proofing. Okay, so the color management workflow. Okay, sorry. So basically, the color management workflow I'm introducing right now is called ICC color management. Why we're introducing ICC color management? Because there are different types of color management methods, and there are two types. One is we called closed ICC color closed color management methods. That is, we use specific monitor, specific printer, specific ink, specific paper. Everything has to be specific. Okay, so they can do a very good job to match the colors exactly, but the price is high. The cost, the investment, the cost of buying these equipment devices, the paper, the ink are very high. Okay, so they are using professional services like a high-end printing for maybe catalogs, like a car catalogs or automobile catalogs or high-profile branded magazines or something like that. They're using something like this close color management. They can afford the investment, but for normal user or typical users, basically ICG color management is more accessible because it can use any kind of devices. For example, you can use the BenQ monitor, you can use Canon printer, you can use whatever paper you like. Okay, so you can combine this, and it's an open source. It's open-ended, so you can combine any kind of devices you like and combine it. Although the performance of the color matching may not be as good as the close color management type, but it's still good enough for normal users. Okay, and the cost of the investment is not as high as that the closed color management type. So that's why I'm introducing the ICC color management here. Okay, so color management should actually it manages color throughout different devices and different media. The media I referred here is different type of ink and different type of papers. Okay, papers can be, for example, glossy type or semi-gloss or matte. Okay, and basically the color management includes the color gamut mapping. Color gamut is actually the color characteristics of different devices, because each device has its own color gamut, and you have to match the color gamut exactly in order to match the colors. Okay, so for the ICC profile, what does it do? It actually describes the characteristic of a device. Okay, so it's like a handshaking. Okay, first you need to introduce yourself first. Okay, so when the two devices do the handshake first, the two devices need to introduce themselves first. For example, for the monitors two monitors talking together, they need to talk about how bright I can show. Okay, what's the color gamut, how wide I can display the colors. For example, like these kind of terms, okay, they need to describe themselves first, okay, and includes some lookup table entries. So, and also includes how do we transfer colors to visual space, okay, so they can know how we can transform colors to each other, okay. So, I'm not sure if you heard of ICC before, okay. So ICC actually stands for International Colour Consortium. It's an industry consortium and it's the only actually color consortium established by the industry. Okay, and there are actually right now there are 70 members and is established from 1993. Okay, the goal is actually to create, promote, and encourage evolution of an open, vendor-neutral, cross-platform color management system, architecture, and components. Okay, so these are the active members that are actually currently active in ICC right now. Okay, so basically, you can see lots of brands like either camera brands or printer brands and display brands. Okay, and BenQ is actually pretty active since 2013. So basically, in the ICC color management workflow, we can break down into 3 parts. The first part is the image capture, okay? The second part is image processing, and the third part is the image reproduction, okay? So underneath, there are different devices or software associated with each section of the workflow. Okay, so the image capture, you definitely need a camera or a scanner to capture or acquisition an image, and definitely you need a monitor to look at. Okay, for image processing, you definitely need a monitor to display an image and the software to work with. Okay, and for image production, so basically I'm talking about printing. Okay, you can also talk about online reproduction. Okay, so you definitely need a monitor, you need a printer, okay, to do that. Okay, so the most important device throughout the color management, I would say, is the monitor, because monitor is used in all 3 stages. And if your monitor displays the colors wrong in any of these stages, then your colors goes wrong, right? So you have to calibrate your monitors right, okay? And there are questions about what kind of color space that I need to use in each stages, okay? So the image capture, I always use the largest color space that I can capture because I want to preserve as much colors as I do. So right now, the largest color space from a camera I can have right now is Adobe RGB. So I recommend you capture the Adobe RGB, okay? Even though you may not use Adobe RGB in your reproduction part, but I always recommend you capture as much color as you do, okay? And in the image processing part, as I recommended right now, still using the Adobe RGB to do the image processing, okay? Because before, okay, people saying, well, using sRGB, because that was the time there are no Adobe RGB monitor, okay? Right now, we have Adobe RGB capable we have Adobe RGB capable monitors. So that's why I recommend we use Adobe RGB as the largest color space. Okay. People are arguing about using Adobe RGB or Photo Pro, ProPhoto color space. Okay. ProPhoto is a color space which is actually an imaginary color space, which is no device can actually reproduce this color space. So from my perspective is I would like to see a color that can be reproduced on the device rather than some imaginary color spaces, okay? Because there are some algorithm errors or algorithm insufficiency when you transfer from your monitor, for example, sRGB or Adobe RGB to the ProPhoto color space and transferring back. There are some errors involved, okay? So I'd rather not taking the chance getting some errors involved in there, okay? So taking my color space to ProPhoto, okay? So that's why I recommend to use Adobe RGB. But if you're used to using the ProPhoto color space and you haven't run into any problems, okay, then feel free to use ProPhoto. I won't against it, okay? But if you are asking for my suggestions or advices, I will suggest to use the Adobe RGB as your color space, okay? Because you can actually see how the colors actually being reproduced on your monitors, okay? And for the third stage, image reproduction, okay, this is tricky, okay? Because it really depends on how your image is going to be reproduced, okay? So for Adobe RGB, this is when you're using if your image is going to send to print, because Adobe RGB can cover the color space for CMYK. sRGB cannot cover the CMYK color space. So you need a color space large enough to enclose that CMYK space. Okay, so you need to encode your image with Adobe RGB. So that's why I always suggest you capture with Adobe RGB color space first, okay? But if you're sending your images online only, okay, if you're doing Facebook, Instagram, or other online gallery, then convert your image to sRGB only. Don't send your image to Adobe RGB or DCIP or any other color space, only sRGB only. Because right now, internet only accept sRGB color space. If you send any other color gamut, like Adobe RGB, then your image may be twisted. Okay, the colors may be twisted, may be incorrect. Okay, because the protocols, internet protocols, may not be interpreting the image, the colors correctly. So if you're doing online publishing only, then convert your image to sRGB only. Okay, so this is the tricky part. Okay. So since the monitors are so important, so how do we choose your monitors for color management monitors? So I'll use target practicing as an example right now. So your typical monitors is actually like this. It's actually giving you some color every time. It's the same color, but may not be the correct color. Okay, but the color management monitors, it gives you the same color, the same correct color every time. So it's on target every time. Okay, this is the criteria for color management monitor. So what is a color management monitor? It can actually be calibrated correctly, accurately by instrument. So by a calibrator, that's what I mean. Okay, and it conforms to industrial color standards. So it can fit in your workflow easily. Okay, so it should be utilized where color critical work is conducted. For example, like color correcting your work, okay, like enhancing your images, okay, that's where you should use a color management monitor, okay. So what do we need for color management? Basically, you need a monitor and you need a hardware calibration monitor, okay? Basically, the reason why you need a hardware calibration monitor is because you can use any monitor, but hardware calibration monitor gives you an advantage of the colors will stay accurate longer than a software calibration monitors, okay? And there's another reason why, because colors are not only affected by monitors, but also affected by the image pipeline as well. For example, the video card, okay? The video card is also important, okay? So if we do software calibration, okay, that is the calibration is the parameters are adjusted on the video card, okay? So for example, if you calibrate your monitor on your laptop, that is what we call a software calibration, okay? That is basically adjusting parameters on your video card. So your video card is very important, okay? But if we calibrate on a BenQ SW series monitor, then that is doing a hardware calibration monitor. That means we do a adjustment on the parameters inside the monitor. It's not doing on the video card, okay? So you can minimize the effect from the video card. So basically, if you don't have a very high-end video card, that's fine, okay? As long as you can meet the criteria of the bit depth and the connectors, okay? So what bit depth do you need? You need at least 8 bit depths per channel for RGB channel. And the connectors are important. So the connectors recommended to use are DVI, if used for non-4K display port, and the USB Type-C for 4K displays, okay? And I think you have noticed that I didn't mention HDMI connectors, which is very widely used, okay? And the reason why for not using HDMI for color management purposes is this, okay? Because for HDMI, the default RGB range for HDMI is 16 to 235. It's not 0 to 255. That means from 0 to 255, you can see the full black and to the full white. But for 16 to 235, you only see dark gray to light gray. You don't see the full range of black to white. And that's also true for your red, green, and blue. Okay, so that's important. Okay, so you're missing out a lot of colors. And plus, the monitor has no control over the RGB range of HDMI. That really depends on the graphics card or the video card sending out the signal. But since the default RGB range is 16 to 235, so a lot of video card vendors, they only implement 16 to 235. They don't implement 0 to 255. So the monitor has no other source can select, okay? And however, the calibration software will always assume the RGB range is 0 to 255. That is the problem. So if your range, RGB range is 16 to 235, and your calibration software assumes it's 0 to 255, then actually it will try to fill up missing data from 16 to 235. And this will cause a lot of problem, okay? And this will actually destroy your grayscale. Your gray will no longer look neutral gray. It will actually look either greenish, bluish, or reddish, okay? So this is the reason why I don't recommend to use HDMI, okay? And the second thing you need is a calibration software, okay? So monitor can be used to, can be calibrated by a calibrator. So the calibrator actually, there are 2 brands right now. So Data Color or X-Ray. The X-Ray right now is being rebranded to Calibrate. So basically it's the same hardware, but just under different names, okay? And for the hardware calibration, we, BenQ, supply our own calibration software. It's called Pattern Master Element, okay? So which allows you to actually communicate directly to the monitor. Okay. And the reason why you need to calibrate your monitors periodically, okay, is because color shifts over time. Okay. And this is demonstration. And because day one, your monitor looks like this. A month later, and there's a little change in the display. And 2 months later, there are definitely changes. I'm not sure if you can spot it or not, but there's become more yellowish, and 3 months later, definitely become more yellowish. Okay, this is happening, and this is really happening. But the reason why you don't spot it from your monitors is because you look at the monitors every day, and your eyes are adaptive. Your eyes are telling you it's the same, but it tricks you. Okay. And the reason why I'm telling you is changing because the backlight are just acting like the light tubes at your home. Okay. And what happens if you what happens to your light tubes? But if you use for a long time, it will goes darker, goes yellower, right? And then finally just stop working, right? It's the same thing as the backlight. Okay, it will become darker, become more yellowish, and then it just stop working one day. Okay, so this will happen. This is a physical characteristic of the backlight. Okay, so don't trust your eyes. Okay, trust the instrument. So that's why we need to calibrate our monitor more periodically. And I know there's question about how often should we calibrate our monitors. Okay, so this question is actually, I would say this is really up to you. Okay, but if you ask for my advice, I would say at least you need to calibrate every month if you want to have a good calibration result, at least every month. Okay, or if you're doing an important job, I would say calibrate before you do that important job, just to make sure your monitor is not doing anything strange. Okay, just make sure everything is right before you do that important job. Since that job is so important, right? Just take a 10 to 12 minutes to do that calibration. It won't hurt. Okay. And number 3 is ICC profiles. Okay, the ICC profile will have like can be .ICC or .ICM. Okay, .ICC. So basically, these are the key to color management, and .ICC and .ICM can be used interchangeably. Okay, so basically, simplify the complex transformation between devices into a simpler transformation by this chaotic transformation to a 2-step transformation. So transfer to a standard color space. Okay, so just need to know how to transfer to a standard color space and then transferring back. So that's easy, right? And then it's building every OS. Basically, it exists in Windows, Mac, and Linux. So it could be embedded in image file, and it's automatic generated by Calibration Software if you're using monitor calibration. Okay. So here are the locations where ICC profiles are stored. Okay, so no matter which version of Windows 7, Windows 10, they are stored in this location. And Windows Mac OS is always this location. So basically, if you have an ICC profile from other people, then you have to put in this folder only, okay? Or otherwise it won't work, because this is the specific folder that the ICC profile has to be put in order to work, okay? So this is an example I'm showing that for ICC color management, okay? So this is before the color management, the 2 monitors with 2 different brands and 2 different models looks very different, right? Okay. And this is after color management, okay? What I'm saying is this picture, I screwed up because I use a mobile phone to took this picture, and it doesn't look very similar, but when I was there, it looks very, very close. The colors are very, very close to each other. Okay, is the phone, my mobile phone doing the trick. Okay, but here I was doing the same procedure on 4 different monitors. Okay, and they gave me more similar results. And this time I use my regular camera, my DSLR, to capture these 2 photos, and they give me better results. So important lesson to learn: if you care about colors, don't use your mobile phone to capture the photos. Okay. All right. So the last 2 slides are demonstrating that we can have consistent colors if we are on calibrated monitors. So when we transmit our work of digital files, okay, so the 2 recipients on each end, we can have consistent colors. Okay, so this is one of the goal of color management. Okay, we can have consistent colors across different devices, different monitors. Okay, so basically, this actually ends today's introduction. But like I said here, this is not the end. This is just the start. So we'll have more webinars coming through later on. We'll talk about how to calibrate the monitors step by step. I'll do a live demonstration on how to do that. And we'll talk about how to do the soft proofing by how to match the colors on the monitor to how to generate the printer ICG profile, and how we use that to actually match it to each other. Okay, I'll do a step-by-step procedure, and I think that will solve most of the questions. Okay, so I think there are a lot of questions right now. So let me take a look. Okay. Okay. Let me take a look at the question. Okay, so why does a monitor needs to be constantly calibrated? Okay, and how does it lose calibration so quickly? Okay, because we need to actually, like I said, it's more like a maintenance rather than an absolute requirement. I would put it this way, because this is more like if you calibrate more regularly on your monitor, then it gives you better performance each time. And believe it or not, you'll become faster each time. So that's why for myself, I actually calibrate my monitor every 2 weeks. So I do that. And this also depends on your, like I said, the requirement for the color accuracy. Okay, so if you have a higher requirement for the color accuracy, then you definitely need to calibrate your monitors more often. Okay, and why does it lose calibration so quickly? That also depends on your usage. Because I use my monitor like 8 hours per day. It's just like I use it like every minute of my work time. So this is like it's like burning out your light. Okay, so that's why it loses the calibration, because the heat. Okay, so that's why it's a physical change. So that's why if you're really picky on the colors, I recommend you calibrate your monitor that often. Okay. Okay. Okay, so is it possible to calibrate the display of mobile photos and tablets? Yes, X-Ray has I can't remember the product name, but they have a software combined with their i1 Display Pro to calibrate mobile phone and the tablets. So you can actually do that. Okay, but I believe it's only for Android only, but Android phones only, but not for iPhones. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So given the vast majority of digital imagery is consumed on digital device that are not colorable, for example, laptops, how do we output image for this usage? Okay. Okay, this question is actually talking about, okay, how the vast majority of image for the device is not color calibrated, right? So basically, yes, I understand that the only way we're calibrating to sRGB is probably the only way to do that. And trying to spread out the words that you need to calibrate your monitor is that's the only other way to do that, because that's why we're having this webinar, try to spread out the words that you need to calibrate your monitor, you need to calibrate your devices, because this is the only way to make sure your device is displaying your monitor correctly, because there's no other way to do that. Yeah. And should we plan ahead and output image differently to account for this? Well, it is very hard because you have no idea how badly the display are being skewed. Okay, for example, you don't know how displays are being distorted. For example, how yellowish being turned, how dark is being displayed. So you have no way to do that. So basically, I wouldn't recommend to do that. Yes. Yeah. So basically, for next question, going back to HDMI comment I missed, you're saying, did you say not to use HDMI? Yes. So yes, I say for the purpose of color management and the color calibration, I will not suggest to use HDMI, and I would suggest to use DVI if your monitor is not 4K. So, and I would actually, going back to this slide here, I will suggest to use DisplayPort. Okay. And the USB Type-C for 4K displays. Okay, these are all digital connectors. Okay. Okay, for the next question, what are the best settings, color profiles for workflow if I'm working with PS, Lightroom, ID, and AI? So basically, the best settings for color profiles, if you're not involved in softproofing, I'm saying these are two separate cases. If we're just doing for color, if we're just image enhancement or color creating work, I would say for the color temperature, is for D65, and the luminance, the brightness should be 160 candela per square meter, that 160 nits. And the gamma curve is 2.2. And yeah, and the black point, I think setting at absolute 0. Okay, so that's the best settings for calibration of your monitor. And your color gamut, if you can set that as Adobe RGB, that would be the best, if your monitor can support it. If not, then set to sRGB. Okay. Okay, and that question, can you talk about closed loop color management? And if we use the same camera, same computer, and same printer? Okay, this question is, I think I should be more careful about this. Okay, what I mean closed loop color management, I mean the camera, the computer, and the printer, and the paper, the ink are specified by the vendor of the software, by the color management software. Okay, they have very specific requirement of the monitor you use. For example, it can only be ASIL monitor. Okay, the camera you use can only be very high-end camera. The printer can only be the Epson 9000 series. Okay, the paper can only be the most expensive paper. Inkset can only be Epson genuine inkset. So that's what I mean closed loop color management. So they have a defined set of the product. You can only choose from that. Okay, so but in this case, in your case that you're saying that you're using, because you have your own camera, your own computer, your own printer. This is not quite as defined because you're still using ICG profile. So it is not defined as a closed loop color management. Okay. So it really depends on the architecture and the software that you're using. Okay. Plus, if you're using that closed loop color management software, the software itself is very expensive. It's almost cost as like your car. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Next question. If I print my image with a print lab, how do I ensure the color of the prints match my monitor? Okay. This way, if you go to a print lab, you can ask for the ICC profile from them, from their printers. Okay. And then you can come back to your home and then load your ICG profile in the Photoshop. Okay. Of course, you need to first get that ICC profile put in this folder here. Like I showed it here. Put into this folder here. Okay. Make sure it is in this, either of this folder here, and then load it into Photoshop, and then load up the view proof. Okay. So I'll go through in the episode that we talk about the soundproofing more, but this is the way that we can do it in Photoshop. Okay. So next question. So how does the BenQ monitor compare to the iMac 27-inch monitor calibrated with a data color spider in regard to the color management accuracy? Okay. In terms of accuracy, okay, I would say iMac will actually gives you more saturated colors. Okay, that is a known fact. Okay, and the reason why, and the deeper black. Okay, this is the reason why is because the iMac has a glass cover. Okay, and that piece of glass is really expensive, I would say. That itself is like almost $200 a piece. Okay, and that glass gives you enhancement about on saturation and the contrast as well. So it makes the images or photos looks more vivid, more saturated, more pleasing effect. Okay, but in terms of accuracy, basically, I've done comparison but it's not a fair comparison because our monitors, hardware calibrated monitors, but iMac can only do software calibration, and it's heavily dependent on the video card. So our monitors actually, in terms of accuracy, is better than the iMac. Okay, so again, these are using two different calibration methods. So hardware calibration usually gives out better results in terms of accuracy. So that's why I say hardware calibration monitors is best tools to use in the color management workflow. Okay. So, right, next question. Using a DVI to HDMI cable, okay. This really depends on the cable itself because some of the cable will convert that signal back to 16 to 235 for HDMI, but some of them don't. So you have to test it for yourself. If your calibration fails, okay, and for some reason, if you connect it, it fails, that it doesn't work, and then probably it's the cable's fault. Okay, but you can always try it and then do a calibration and send out the report to us, and we can help you to figure out if it's the fault from a HDMI cable or not. Yeah. How about brightness? Next question, how about brightness? I always have trouble matching the brightness to a monitor with the print. Okay, this is a tricky question because actually this depends on the viewing condition of the print. So basically, you need to measure the print where you're going to view the print. Okay, so if you view the print in a very dark area, then your print will be very dark. So you need to lower your brightness of the monitor. But if you are viewing a very bright area of your under the print, if you're viewing a very bright area, so you better set the brightness higher. Okay, so there is actually a way to do it through R&D Profiler. Okay, so basically there is a measurement function if you use the luminous, under luminous there is a measurement and you can measure paper in the booth. Okay, and that will gives you, if you follow the instruction there, using either R1 Pro 2 or R1 Display Pro, okay, you can follow that instruction and get the luminous settings for your monitors. You can get the values there and you can set it to your calibration software. Okay, I'll have more detailed instructions in the upcoming webinars talking about how to do the calibration and the self-proofing sections. Yeah. Okay, so next question, how can recommend such settings for nits gamma extractor? Can go through very quickly. Okay, so for general calibration, okay, not for soft proofing, I'm not talking for soft proofing. So I would say for the white point, that means the color temperature, set for D65, that's daylight 65, okay. And then for the luminous, set at 160 nits. And for the gamma curve, set at 2.2. And for the black point, set as absolute 0. And then for the color gamut or the RGB primaries, set as Adobe RGB, or if you can. If not, set as sRGB. Yeah, that's the settings I will use for most of the cases. All right, I guess that's the last question. Or
there's some questions that were in the chat.
Yeah.
There was one that says, when using palette master elements, is it right to create a profile from sRGB and one for ARGB, or should he use a panel native?
Okay. I will actually, for my work, I always use Adobe RGB for, depends on the final product I'm using. If I send it for print, I'll use Adobe RGB. If I send it to online calibration, online publishing, I will send it for sRGB. For panel native, I don't use it a lot, only for special purposes for researching. I use panel native. Okay, so that is how I distinguish the three. Yeah.
And another question, not that long ago, polarization had an influence on calibrator rotation position. How does polarization apply to today's calibrators and BenQ displays?
Okay, the polarization actually doesn't affect the displays a lot because the light from the displays are already polarized because there are polarizers inside the panel layers already. So basically, we don't need to put another layer of polarizers on the calibrator. The polarizers actually are more affected on the glossy surface because our monitors are not glossy surface. So we're not affected a lot. Yeah.
And I think this is the last one. Does the latest Mac Mini M1 graphic color range 0 to 255?
The latest Mac Mini?
Yeah.
Okay. That is a good question because I haven't get that one yet. I'm just in the process of procuring one. So I can't tell for sure. So I'll update you once I get it. Okay, I think we have another question in the Q&A session here. Which is better, spectrophotometer or colorimeter? Okay. These two have different usage. For calibrating displays for monitors, these two actually, in terms of the performance, there are actually no difference. Okay, that I say. I have tested it myself. These two give a very similar accuracy. Okay, but spectrophotometers actually they can do the printer ICG profile creation better. So if you're doing printers ICG profiles and you do it a lot, so I would recommend you to invest in the spectrophotometers. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all the questions.
Yeah.
Let me share. Okay. Well, I'd like to say thank you to Chris Bai once again for your insightful information on our color management. This is the first of many upcoming episodes we will have with him. So we hope to see you participating in the future ones as well. So we hope everyone has enjoyed this informative session and was able to learn lots. Thank you again for taking your time out to join us. This session was also recorded and will be available tomorrow. I'll be sending out an email with all the details where you can rewatch the session once again, once the recording has been completed and uploaded. It will normally go onto our BenQ Australia YouTube channel, so keep your eyes out on that. If your questions were not answered, feel free to contact us from our live chat function from our website or through the email here, bqaumarcom@benq.com, and we'll endeavour to provide a response to you as early as possible. We also have our specialised resellers in the from our channel, so Image Science, George's Camera, Camera Electronic, and Specular. They are able to answer any technical questions you may have as well. Don't forget to help us fill out the quick survey, and we'll see you next time.